Hi, so we are
I'm Dee.
Sarah,
Tracy.
do we want to just say what we have in the school first?
Yeah, sure.
Yep. I'm the kindergarten teacher. Being in the Stephanie Alexander program is my first time as a specialist teacher. So before that, I was a classroom teacher.
I'm Dee. I started out as a volunteer parent and probably in the driving person behind getting the patch up and running.
And the program up and running.
And the program.
Yep.
And then we've got Tracy.
I'm the education support and kitchen garden, actually more the kitchen assistant. I've got an SOKG background from a previous school and a food tech background as well.
So as was mentioned, the program has been going here in some sense or another since 2018. But the kitchen garden program has really come together from 2020. So this is our first year of doing it without lockdown, especially being in Melbourne and being actually in Metro Melbourne, even though we're just on the outskirts, we were closed for a lot of the past 2 years. So it feels really good to be having a good run of it this year. So yeah, I think that covers the basics and we'll start showing you around the space. So this building that we're in is called the bathhouse. It's a standalone building and it's a perfect size, but it's not huge. So if you want to just do a shot of the space. Okay, so this is the kitchen, the half of the kitchen that we use. As you can see, it's quite small. So we just have the one oven, a stovetop, a sink that we predominantly use, and we actually share the space with our after-school care program, their care. Mostly they use the other side of the kitchen, and we try and keep it like that, just so we've got our separate kind of utensils and things that we cook with as well. So this is all of our storage here. We're trying to got it labelled so that students can access what they need. We also have these little boxes. And in the 3 to 6 year levels, we have a lot of the kitchen utensils in here. So we want to just have it so that students can put away their own utensils. So there's a picture of how it needs to look at the end of the session. Contents of the boxes labelled there, and that just goes on the front there, so students can wash, dry, and pack up their own workstations. I want to talk a little bit about how we timetable here, because I noticed when I was in the PD a couple of weeks ago that there was some talk about how that happens. So we run with the grade 3, 4s, 5s and 6s. We have composite classes. We run with them in the first half of the year, being in the kitchen and the garden. The way it works is that they have 2-hour sessions every second week, and they're either in the kitchen for a term or the garden for a term, and then they alternate. So all up, they get about 4 sessions, depending on the term length, of course, in the kitchen in one term, and then about 4 sessions in the garden in another term. The way we've organised it like that because of our support, our education support, and because of timetabling. It's easier to have one ES member, Dee's all about the garden and Tracy helps us here in the kitchen. So that way we've timetabled it like that. When we move down to the prep to grade 2s, which will happen next term in term 3, the 1-2s are here for 2 hours and the preps are here for 1 hour. So the program looks very different in 3 to 6 compared to prep to 2s, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. We want to talk a little bit about us as a team. I know that there's a lot of teachers who are starting the program, and I can say that I actually probably could. I don't even know where the program would be if I didn't have the team. That was Tracy and Dee here with me. Having Dee, who built that patch from the ground up, and it's incredible. You'll see that soon, and can really give me really good timetabling about what produce is ready for planting, what produce is ready for harvesting, and the fact that I don't need to be all over everything. is amazing.
We're repurposing our old laptop trolleys. So these will be mobile. They have a PowerPoint with them as well. So if we need to have a blender or whatever, we can have that. So these big tables will go. We're going to have 4 of these, and then we're going to have some smaller tables here for our little kids. So everyone will be able to cook and to eat, and we can set this up the whole way along and have a great big dining table. So it'll be really good shared eating.
Yes, and I think that's a kind of working with what you've got was really what we had to do.
Yeah.
Now, these tables are less than ideal. They're less than ideal to chop on. They're not a very good height, even for the older students. We don't really have enough seating for a whole class, so the way that we share food is very informal, and it's a lot of standing and chatting while we eat, which is really nice. It has a really nice feel to it, but we're hoping when these get up and running that we can kind of formalise that and really sit down and enjoy our meals together. I was going to talk a little bit about sharps and then get on to the thing. In the 3 to 6 program, we have the students using the large knives for chopping. They work with very closely with either myself or Tracy. We don't have volunteers in the program at the moment, so it's a very it's a very closely monitored activity, let's call it that, where there'll usually be 1 staff member and 2 students chopping to either side of us. Do we want to get the safety food cutters and we can show them that? Chopping to either side of us, but even in the short time that we've had the program and the exposure that they've had, we teach, the bear claw and the bridge and all types of chopping techniques, and they're really progressing, and it's amazing seeing how allowing them to have exposure to knives, which they just couldn't believe in the beginning, has really opened up how they are able to access cooking. For the younger year levels, we actually have just purchased these food safety knives. So I feel like there might be some different ideas around this, but what we really wanted is to start to introduce the concepts and the techniques for knife safety, so that we could, when they get to grade 3 and grade 4, we're not introducing that, we're building on that foundational knowledge that they have. Of course, this won't be the only way they prepare food in the younger year levels. There's still all that sensory stuff, the tearing and the kneading and that real tactile food preparation, but we thought that this would add a really nice element for the prep to 2s and skill them up in some areas that otherwise would be left for the older year levels. And they also have these peelers too, and I find that's a real interesting skill that a lot of the older kids don't really have. So I was really happy to be able to introduce that from the lower year levels. Usually I'll just put something like this up on the board, or we've started putting it on the TV there. It'll just be a little grid. The students are really familiar with how to read this, with the group names down the side. And 2 groups work in the kitchen at any given time, and the other 2 groups are working on a theory project. So that's different for the grade 3 and 4s and the 5, 6s, and we might touch on that later. I don't know how useful that is. But as you can see today, Tropical and Cool started in the kitchen. Tropical started on making a pizza dough, and Cool were working on their knife skills and helping prepare the vegetables for the salad we were making. While they're in the kitchen, Aaron and Temperate start with their theory. So they'll usually, we've got a picnic rug comes out on the floor, got some lap desks, and they'll quietly work away on that. When these guys are finished, they'll swap over with the bottom groups, they'll hand over their aprons, and the other group will get ready to cook. Aaron was making leek pizza, and then Temperate were making the pumpkin salad that this group had started to prepare for them. And then when they're done, everybody's had a chance to do theory, everybody's had a chance to cook, we've washed up, put away, and then we share the meal together. So when we have garden session, it starts in the bathhouse. More often than not, it will always start in the bathhouse, even though we have a beautiful outdoor classroom, which you'll see. Students will take a seat on the floor. They will have a look at what group they are in today, and this gets rotated through the term. So next to their group name, they'll either be harvest and plant, chickens, compost and watering, or patch care. And that's just an overview, but that actually is detailed again on these clipboards that an assigned kind of group leader gets each week. So see those. So they become quite familiar with these. It has all the jobs that they're doing for the day.
And then there's a map underneath.
More
Detailed instructions about what they'll be doing in the garden on that day.
So as part of the Prep to 2 program, we're actually going to do, I think I got this idea from the professional development I did with you guys. We're going to do a bit of a treasure hunt with the patch map to familiarise the younger students with this map, so they can start to understand, you know, where things are in the garden. Usually we'll try and do a skills focused little clip. So if they're planting onions, or maybe sometimes showing them a bit of a deep dive into the worm farm or composting, that'll go up on the board, and just to give them a little bit more understanding of that.
We'll just show you the map. So we break it down. You'll have to forgive the scribbles. We share the room with the before and after school care program, and they've had a little bit of fun with the map. But basically all of our garden beds are labelled, but they're also colour-coded as well. So the garden beds and the text actually match up. So that's another way that the kids can identify what areas they're working in. And then also they have their group jobs, the title of their group jobs in the text as well. So that's another way that they can identify what they're doing. This is really handy for the kids. Some of them have a little bit of trouble figuring out what they're actually looking at, but as soon as you point out that that's the gate, they tend to work it out pretty quick after that. So do you reckon we should get out to the garden? You got your jacket? So this here is the entry. It was, the mosaic was put together by the students and also a local artist who was also a grandparent. And we spent probably 3 weeks in the art room putting that together. They made all the individual fruits and vegetables out of clay. Some of the kids had never experienced clay before, so that was very special that they got to take part in that activity. And yeah, it's just lovely. It's a really lovely thing.
And it's wonderful now, because if Tracy does a bit of a 360, this space has actually become much more central to the school. We've got our STEM building, our canteen, and our library all within kind of eye shot of this, which is wonderful.
So before each class, we get the kids to line up outside the gate, and we always just point their attention in the direction of our blackboard here, and we just ask them to engage their senses. It also sort of focuses them in on being aware that we're in a space where you can practice mindfulness. We always ask them to listen, smell, feel, and then sometimes taste as well. And we also ask that they try and keep their voices down, because we like this to be a bit of a relaxation zone. So come on in. You'll notice that we've repurposed a lot of different things in the garden. A lot of this was actually in the space already, and we just turned it into something new. So we had a whole lot of broken rubbish bins, so we turned them into wicking beds. We had a whole lot of old pallets, so we turned them into racks. We also had a few donations from members of our school community. So we have a lot of the old electrical cable drums. We turn them into workstations. If you follow through the timber garden beds with the railway sleepers, they were here and they were existing, as well as all of the fruit trees. They've been planted probably 10 years prior to me discovering the space. So they're well established. All of the colour mod beds, they were already here. The school had purchased everything already. But again, they were just growing weeds. So it was really underutilised, and it was a real shame to see this space not being used. The kids are in the Garden Warriors group, so those pilot groups. They constructed all of the scarecrows, all the little trellises. We had a family donate their old shed because they were putting a pool in. And then this is our outdoor classroom. So when it's a little bit warmer, the tree creates a beautiful shady space for our kids to learn. The outdoor classroom was actually a COVID lockdown project for my family and I. When the new buildings went in next door, we actually lost 2 garden beds on the end. So we repurposed the railway sleepers into the whiteboard. The whiteboard was just in the skip. We saved that from the skip. And then again, a lot of the things that you see in the patch are items that we have saved from the skip. Yes. So it doesn't actually cost us a lot of money to get this place up and running.
Like the milk crates in furniture.
Yeah, so we've repurposed the milk crates as well. Again, it was all just things that we found in the skip. We haven't bought any of this. This is all just rubbish and items that we've found and gone, you know what, we can repurpose that into something else.
So we've got our worm farms over there in the corner.
Repurposing, we've got the bathtub for the worms. An old wonky door. Looks like there's something growing in there. And this worm farm here, one of the education support staff actually took this worm farm home for the 10 years between the two programs, starting up again. So she saved the worms, and then she said, I wasn't going to bring the worms back until I knew that there was somebody there to actually look after them. So they're back here.
And this is really good because when we have the 5, 6s and the 3, 4s in the space, the 3, 4s look after this worm farm, the 5, 6s look after the larger one. And they're in charge of, you know, emptying the worm wee and all of that as part of their jobs.
Very well. So the patch is looking a little bit wintry at the moment. Everything's sort of starting to lose their leaves. But we've got lots of things growing, ready to go. We've got some cabbages. We're doing a green manure for this one because we had tomatoes in here, so we're going to feed the soil again. We've got a bit of a mix here of green manure and cabbages.
And our strawberries.
So this is this post was donated by one of the parents. They were doing a bit of an experiment at home, and so they decided to make one for us too. So it's actually like a strawberry forest, and it's irrigated from the top, and there's composted soil all through there, and then there's little holes where we've tucked the strawberries in. So they're doing quite well. We have to have netting here because we have a very strong possum population.
Yep. And here's the compost.
So on the map with the composting, we always mark the active compost bay with an X so the kids know exactly where they need to go. This side of the patch is more future project. We're hoping to clad the old cricket batting cage and turn it into a seed raising area, and also have a lean-to, and we'll have some picnic tables under there, and we're hoping for a pizza oven, but we've got a lot of fundraising to do before that happens. We have 5 chickens here at Sunbury Primary School. They're still laying, I think because they're the most spoiled chickens in Melbourne.
Yep.
And again, we have repurposed parts of our old fence. The chicken coop, that was, we did fundraise for that.
Yep.
But yeah, the kids absolutely love them. We also have a lot of kids that have extra support in the classroom, and adds a distraction. If they need to sort of come out and calm down a little bit, we usually take them to see the chickens, and that just directs their focus into something else. We're actually working on a project at the moment, and they were given some materials, and basically they said to them, what could we do with this? And they've come up with all of the pallets that all of the air purifiers were delivered on. And we just couldn't bear to put them in the skip.
Yep.
So they've actually turned it into an area, like a vertical garden. So they're actually going to pack it out, and then they're going to put strawberries in there. And